The Renaissance was a cultural movement that initially began in Florence, Italy, and later spread throughout Europe. The Renaissance was a cultural rebirth that occurred in Europe from roughly the 14th through the middle of the 17th centuries, based on the rediscovery of the literature of Greece and Rome. Renaissance means rebirth or reawakening. As the rebirth took place, many changes occurred in art, learning, and many other things. The Renaissance period was unique in which it took a really long time to create an essence of culture that surrounded much of Europe. This era bridged the time between the Middle Ages and modern times. Throughout Europe, even though there was a mass culture forming, two separate Renaissances distinct from one another by location occurred. This impacted the lives of civilians as well, mainly women, and was developed on the basis of social rank. Women were of the most oppressed throughout the Middle Ages because of how isolated their societal role was supposed to be from all others. Women were supposed to be upholding their household in positions like that of a wife, mother, and a peasant. However, some women were able to become artisans alongside their male counterparts. The household was supposed to revolve around the woman, but if she did a shameful act, the male was allowed to step in and take over through disciplinary action. As the Renaissance progressed further into development, women were allowed to have a slither of extra enhancements that allowed their lives to transform slowly. It was slow, most definitely, but if there was any influence that swayed the population, class rank played the predominant role. However, it must be recognized that the great disparities between the life of a rich woman and a poor one, and between a rural and an urban one, entirely existed. This was on a multiple perspective platform as well. Women were not held in high esteem during this period by any means, but there was a growth in women's rights, including the marriage. Low-class women were expected to be housewives and revolved themselves among taking care of that home. This is a later term that would be known as cult of domesticity. Middle-class women were expected to work for their husbands and help them run their businesses as well. Women also had to take care of their own households, instilling the values of what history calls a nuclear family. Upper-class women may have had servants and workers working for them, but the women were still expected to take care of their house because they were supposed to take care of the women duties. These women were once ornaments of the home, so additional activities were hard to come by. In some respects, this is where the ideals of salons, parlor meetings, and book clubs generate to form, because wealthier women were bored in their own homes and wanted to have their own company. Women had to stick to the status quo and stay under the direct control of a male, even if she had no intentions of relationship or marriage. This society is patriarch-like, which means that the society revolved around masculinity. Some of the social standards, as demonstrated by writer Dale Kent, included: once she had been removed to her new family, a stranger within its ranks, a wife's identity derived directly from that of her husband, whose interests she was expected to put before those of father, brothers, or even children. Her movements were circumscribed by the walls of the family palace. Within her home, the physical conditions of a woman's life were determined by constant childbirth. There was high fertility among these women as well, as there was a lot of infant mortality. Women bore the brunt of the need to produce male heirs. Wealthy women got the most advantages out of the Renaissance, for these women were allowed chances at education, mostly in the form of teaching the ladies how to act as court roles and patronesses of the arts, not for the women to gain employment in professions by any means. This is unique for the Renaissance period and is a turning point in history because it is the first time that men truly stressed the importance of wealthy women to receive an education and not be the ornament of their own home. Erasmus and even Thomas More believed that not only the highest class to women should have an opportunity to education, for the middle class too should be involved. Women should also read specific books to help them learn their proper lady roles.
I'm Thomas More, Lord Chancellor to the King Henry VIII. I educated his daughter in Latin, Greek, logic, theology, and mathematics. I set the example for other nobles of England to do quite the same.
Renaissance women were the catalysts for future women's movements because they proved that society couldn't define them. 3 Renaissance women that deserve recognition for what they have done is Christine de Pizan, Isabella d'Este, and Artesima Denticelli. Isabella d'Este was a powerful and well-educated political figure, patron of the arts, and mother of 7. She was known as the First Lady of the Renaissance, as she was related to nearly every ruler in Italy by either birth or marriage. This woman was the figure of the Renaissance, and took it with pride and passion because she believed solely in the purpose of the advancement of women in European society. Oppression was not a main cause for her, as she spent her life encapsulated by the tribulations of royalty. Genticelli was an Italian Baroque painter, today considered one of the most accomplished painters in the generation following that of Caravaggio. She inspired other women to want to be an artist, as well as she gave men reasoning in being a patron of the arts. It's also necessary to highlight the young Christine de Pizan.
Good day to you. I am Christine de Pizan, and I am known for being a French Renaissance woman, most notably for writing about the struggles of women. As well, my husband died and left me a widow at a young age, so I wrote ballads of poetry day after day in memory of my late husband. Some say I became the voice of heroism in women, but I only feel as if I was being myself. Throughout my career, I studied an extensive range of topics in subjects like Greek and Latin, granted to me because of the large library I was provided access to.
In addition, it is understood that relatively little is known about the women artists of the Renaissance, but some did achieve both acceptance and fame later on. It is difficult to fully reconstruct their contributions, as so many of their works were lost or destroyed. There was approximately 30 documented cases of Renaissance women, but not all of these women gained the recognition they so rightfully deserved. Women have fought for so long to get the rights that they deserve, but this was the first moment in history where there was a lot of women working for the same goal of bettering women for the future.